So in this video I show me saddling Banksy for the first time. In order to prepare him for being saddled over the course of my having him the last couple of years since he was born, I've been preparing him by getting him used to all sorts of stuff like tarps, blankets, being touched and brushed under his stomach, as well as wrapping the rope around like you see here, and getting him used to small amounts of pressure. I've been practicing this specific thing with the rope for a couple of months on and off just to get him used to the feeling of pressure across his belly, and this is just all with the intent to make it as low stress as possible so that it's not a shock to have pressure in that area or to feel anything wrapped around his body or on top of his back. So while this is his first time wearing a saddle, we've practiced lots of other stuff leading up to this to ensure that he is not going to have the saddle be a big deal. All I'm really doing here is taking the saddle on and off and making it make some noise so that he can get used to the sound behind him on his back, and then I'm rewarding him for standing still. As you can see, he's not tied to anything and not really being held by me, so he could leave or move his feet, but I'm rewarding the standing and just getting him used to the sounds of the saddle and rubbing it across the hair of his back. I'm doing this before doing it up because if by chance the sound were to scare him and the saddle was done up, then he's in a situation where he's going to hear the sound repeatedly as he panics and isn't going to have a good chance to get used to it in a low stress way. So I'm doing any sound that the saddle could possibly make as he's moving around with it on before doing it up, and just making sure that I'm not going to get a fearful reaction.
That's good.
The saddle pad is no big deal to introduce since he's already been blanketed and worn tarps and whatnot, so it really isn't something that's going to concern him, but I'm just doing this just in case and waving it around kind of like a flag so that he gets used to it if it were to like catch the wind one day and blow towards him or something. Just anything I can do to make sure that he's not going to have a reaction to what I'm doing here. But the saddle pad has not explicitly been introduced as the saddle pad, but he's worn blankets and stuff that would be more concerning than a saddle pad.
So cute.
And again, any of the rewards I give are just to reinforce the behaviors I want to see, which is calm, standing still, and just make this a pleasant experience for him as he gets used to what it will be like to eventually be a riding horse. I also like to get them used to the buckles on the girth jingling just in case, because if they were to spook while you're doing it up and there's pressure underneath of them, since it's a newer sensation, if anything is to slightly scare them, they're more likely to have a bigger reaction if the slight spook stacks on top of the weird sensation of wearing a girth and having a saddle on the back. So I just like to introduce him to all the potential noises that he'll be hearing when he's being tacked. This next portion is just getting him used to the sensation of the actual girth, which covers more surface area than the rope, so will feel different. As you can see, he backed up a little bit because he's a little bit confused, and he also likes me to be at his shoulder because that's where I typically reward him from. But anyways, I do it up loosely and I'm just holding the end of it, so it's not actually buckled, so if he were to spook, it would come right off. And I'm just making him move his feet just to check, because some horses, as soon as they take a step forward, they will be nervous and weirded out by the sensation of the saddle and the girth, so I always like to move their feet before I continue buckling and tightening it. And with the youngsters, I always do it up a hole or two, walk them, and then do it up a couple of more holes, because then it's not anything sudden or drastic. It's a really gradual introduction to pressure.
Who's thingy-mabobber?
May seem like overkill since he seems so quiet, but it's just making sure that I don't elicit a big reaction from him if he is to walk forward and get scared of the sensation of the girth in the saddle. So I'd rather keep it low-key as possible, even if it's overdoing it for how calm he is, because it avoids that big reaction that could then create a fear response to the saddle and the girth at another point. So if we don't have that ever happen the first time, he's going to have this really nice, positive, quiet association with the saddle, which is why I'm taking my time in buckling it up. And you can see that I only have one buckle done up now. And then I just gradually get it done up. And the reason why I only walk them a few steps is also because I want to get the girth done up safely in case they are to scoot, because I don't want the saddle to roll or go underneath of them. So I don't want to walk them or do too much until it is done up snug enough to stay in place. But I also want to give them the chance to get used to the sensation before it's done up all the way. It's more snug, I start taking him for longer walks, and as you can see, he's quite forward walking beside me. He loves training, so sometimes he gets a little exuberant and he'll even try to take a few jog steps beside me. So I'm trying to keep him walking, which is why I halt him, check the girth one more time, and then start walking again. And you can see here he kind of wants to start jogging past me, but I bring him back, halt, and reward. And the reason why I reward the halt is because that's the neutral behavior I want him to go to immediately when I say whoa, if he starts to get a little bit up or excited, because training is exciting for him and he really likes trotting beside me at liberty. So it's something he tries to do when he's not supposed to, which he's doing it here, which is why I'm just halting him several times. I don't mind him walking forward and wanting to stride out, but at this point I don't really want him trotting because I want to gradually get him used to it at the walk before asking him to go forward to trot and seeing how he reacts to the sound of the saddle and the sensation of the girth at the trot. I keep halting him because he is quite forward, and I'm just trying to reinstall the idea of staying with me and not jogging ahead, because he wants to get right into what we do during our liberty work, which involves trotting beside me, especially when I'm walking faster, but I just want him to extend his walk. So I keep halting him and then rewarding the halt to make it a rewarding experience, and then I keep checking the girth to see if it can go up or if it needs to go up anymore. So right there I did it up again, so it's snug, and then we walk forward, and here I let him take a few jog steps because I just want to see how he'll react to it at the jog, and then we just keep carrying on walking. So if he offers me a jog, even if he's not technically supposed to because I'm not running, I don't make a big deal out of it because he's staying right beside me and he's not being pushy or pushing ahead or trying to get away and not scooting forward, and he's looking nice and calm. He's not hunching his back, he's not tensing his muscles, he's not really showing a reaction to the saddle at all, but more so the reaction to training, which he likes to do, is the liberty work. Once I've had long enough to assess whether or not he's stressed or likely to react if he were to go up to canter or anything, I take off his halter and we start doing what would be our regular liberty work, but with the saddle on, getting him used to the feeling of the saddle and allowing him the time and space to just go away and go do something else if he was overwhelmed by this session. So it's just returning to something familiar that he likes, but while introducing this new concept of the saddle. And as you can see, he's still really focused on training. He wasn't bothered by the sound of the saddle or the stirrups flapping around, and didn't really have any reaction at all to it, other than just wanting cookies and wanting me to be standing at his shoulder rather than at his rib cage. So it was a really lovely response to this whole thing, and I was super proud of him, especially with going forward to trot, because some horses will get weirded out by the sensation when they change gaits, and it might involve a minor reaction even if they've been well prepared. So I was super proud of him to not have any reaction and not even show the slightest bit of a hump in his back due to the weird feeling of the saddle. And I'm really proud of him because I think I prepared him well for this and he responded better than I thought.